to worship him. I tell them, but there's another blessing on this. I've received too much not to worship him. I've received a touch every morning. I've seen God move in places where the devil said it would never work. And so I can't be still. I can't be quiet. I got to give him some worship because neighbor, he's been better to me than I've been to myself. And I worship him not just because he kept me through the hard times, but because he blessed me when I didn't deserve it. Hallelujah. Thank you, Lord. Now I just need a handful of progressive folk. Say, I also got to worship him because he's still doing it. Say, I can't even figure it out. He's still doing it. I got more bills than money, but they paid. I don't know how he's doing it. Some days I wake up and don't feel so good in my body. But guess what? I'm still moving and I'm still going and I'm still blessed. I still got a roof over my head and somehow God is making a way out of no way. So I just got to worship him because he's God all by himself. He don't need my help. He don't need my counsel. He don't need my advice. He don't need my direction. He knows what to do, when to do it, how to do it, how to bring it, how to help me. And I just got to worship him. To all of y'all who are focusing on your struggle, you focusing on your pain, you focusing on your disappointment. Why don't you just be a little progressive and wave goodbye to all of that stuff? Jesus said, in this life you shall have tribulation. But if you read the rest of it, he said, but be of good cheer. I have overcome all of that. I died so you don't have to walk around with a weight on your shoulder and your head bowed down. Somebody in here scream, I'm out of that, I'm out of that, I'm out of that, I'm out of that. My God is bigger than my trouble. My God is bigger than my health issue. My God is bigger than my worries. So I'm going to worship him for being God. The God of the second chance. The God of the turnaround. The God of the comeback in. The God of the fixing things that were broken that I couldn't fix. I'm going to worship that God. Hallelujah. Come on, put those hands together. Give God some praise. Oh, yeah. Hallelujah. I need y'all to help me with the message this morning. Just do me a favor. Grab somebody by the hand and look at them real close. Tell them today we're going to learn to stop cursing our dry season, because that's where our next blessing is coming from. You ought to get excited if you're in a dry season. You ought to get excited. If you're living on a hard time drive, you ought to get excited. Living on, I ain't got no money parkway. You ought to give God some praise. Woo! all of our preachers in their respective places, our beautiful and lovely mothers of our church, all of our officers, our First Lady in her absence, and you, my sisters and brothers in Christ. God knows we love you and we appreciate you and thank God for you. Turn with me to Genesis chapter 26. Genesis chapter 26. I'm going to read for your hearing verses 1 through 6 and then 12 through 14. I'll move a little quickly, man. I want to make sure we're out in time so that we can worship this afternoon as well. Genesis chapter 26, beginning of verse 1. And there was a famine in the land. Somebody say famine. Here's the bad part. Beside the first famine that was in the days of Abraham, Isaac went unto Abimelech, king of the Philistines, unto Gerar. And the Lord appeared unto him and said, Go not down into Egypt. Dwell in the land which I shall tell thee of. Sojourn in this land. Watch this. And I'll be with thee, and will bless thee. For unto thee and unto thy seed I will give all these countries. Notice he doesn't say cities, he doesn't say towns. I'm going to give you all these countries. I will perform the oath which I swear unto Abraham thy father. And I will make thy seed to multiply as the stars of heaven. And will give unto thy seed all these countries. And in thy seed shall all the nations of the earth be blessed. Because that Abraham obeyed my voice and kept my charge, my commandments, my statutes, and my laws. Verse 6 says, and Isaac dwelt in Gerar. Down to verse 12, it said, then Isaac sowed in that land. I want you to catch this. And received in the same year 100-fold. And the Lord blessed him. And the man waxed great and went forward. Somebody say forward. And grew until he became very great. For he had possession of flocks, possession of herds, great store of servants, and the Philistines envied him. I want to preach as the Lord shall guide. There's no time like now. Oh yeah. If you're not too mean, just turn to somebody that you can connect with and tell them now's the time to be blessed. Now if they said it with any volume and you believe they really mean it, tell them, so get over being mean and mad and all that other stuff. You don't have time to hold grudges. You don't have time to be feeling sorry for yourself. You don't have time to live in regret. Now's the time. Yes, there's no time like now. Hallelujah. My brothers and sisters, by now, you realize that the Lord has responded magnificently to our revolution. All year, he's been making ways for us. He's been there for us, hearing our prayers, keeping us from danger and meeting all of our needs. I'm so excited about the move of God in all of our lives. But I want you to understand, I really believe that God isn't finished yet. I believe that the Lord intends to establish us and sustain us. And he's going to do it not in what we consider good times. God's going to bless us in our shaky times. I believe it. I believe it. I believe it. He's going to bless us through some unconventional means. And he's going to bless you and I and establish us to bring increase into our lives. Watch this. Not through receiving, but through our giving. Somebody is with me. But in order to do this, God requires that we be open to him and what he has planned for our lives. times. And in order to do that, we have to be open-minded. We have to be open-minded to change our strategy and change our system of giving and how we face the challenges of each and every day. We just can't go along business as usual. We have to start changing how we go about doing some things. Not only do we have to be open-minded, God requires that we learn to be open-hearted. We've got to learn to trust God more than we fear our circumstances, more than we fear being broke, more than we fear being disliked. We've got to trust God beyond culture. Not only do we have to be open-hearted, we need to be open-handed to sow when all other indicators say, close your hands and hold on to what you have. God is saying, I need you to recognize when it's time to give and when it's time to hold up. And while everybody else is holding up, I'm going to give you the signal. That's the time I want you to give. I know this is difficult for some of you because for years, churches everywhere, including this one, have not done a sufficient job in instructing you about the power of giving. To many of you, you see giving as a matter of dollars and cents rather than obedience to God. And many believers have lost focus on the mission and the mandate of the church, which is to win souls. And because they've lost focus on that, many have abandoned their church after being fed by their church and after being spiritually nourished by their church. They then abandon their church and leave the church to become a fundraising organization trying to keep the lights on. Simply because we won't give, we won't sow, we won't support. We think the church is supposed to pour out, but like any account, you can't pour out what's not being poured into. Many have lost sight of the fact that wealth escapes us as a people because we misunderstand the power of blessing the house of God with our time, with our talent, with our presence, and with our tithe. We think it's supposed to just happen, and it doesn't just happen. It takes dedicated people to come in and say, this ministry will lack nothing, and I'm going to make sure it doesn't. Most of our churches find talking about money a slippery slope to stand on when you're trying to teach. Folk get touchy and easily offended when you talk about giving. But I believe as a people that wealth escapes us because we want to receive the blessings of God without being good stewards for God. Because as a people, we have become trapped in renting instead of owning. We have become satisfied with being consumers and not producers. Some of us have more money on our body than we have in the bank right now. You walking around with an $800 cell phone and don't even own stock in the company that makes the phone. You riding in an $80,000 car and don't own not a share of stock in the company that makes the car. We got to learn to stop being renters and start being owners. Some of us have more credit debt than we have investment portfolios. Some of us have wealth escape us because we become comfortable relating our value or our self-value by the name brands we carry. And so you identify yourself as being a success or failure based on the logo on your car, based on what you're wearing and how much your shoes cost or your handbag costs. All of this has ruined us as a people because now we've become a people satisfied with being counterfeit rather than original. Who do you think the knockoff market is for? The knockoff market isn't for anybody. It's for our people because we want to associate our value with the name brands that we have. So we'll buy a knockoff and pretend to be something rather than wait till God blesses us with the original. I know this is difficult because the ideals of materialism demand that we receive through handout or work in order to earn so you can spend rather than sow to reap. We would rather receive to spend rather than sow and reap. Watch this. On the first model, you get it first and then send it out. But on the second model, you send it out first and then take it in. Good God Almighty. We have lost sight of that. And for some of us, it's a new way of approaching life and approaching our future. The Lord is calling on us to rebuke and accept our deliverance from the negative influences that the enemy, the culture, and our past experiences of not having enough have had on us. It's time for us to rebuke all of that. We got to start telling the devil, get up out of my head. And God is showing me a different way. It's time to trust him in these shaky times. Watch this. With the increase he's planned for you. Let me help you. God already has increase planned for your life. The problem is you're on the wrong highway. You're on the highway of receiving to spend, and your increase is on the highway of give so that you can get back. All year, we've been on this incredible journey. All year, we've been revolutionary. So far, we've been taught to be resilient, to be engaged, to be victorious, to be optimistic, loving, undaunted, triumphant, and invested. And on last week, we learned that we have to also be open. God told us, untie your hands. You got to open your eyes so you can see what he's doing. You got to open your ears so you can hear what he's saying. And you got to open your heart so you can feel his compassion moving on you of where you are to invest yourself. And then when you open your hands and begin to give, you'll find out that Jesus had something that was marvelous when he told us, when we give, it shall be given unto us, pressed down, shaken together, and running over shall men give into your bosom rather than you giving into theirs. We learned that increase begins with giving. Not just money, but giving of ourselves. That's right. Not just money, but giving of our time. Yeah. And giving in such a way that you become to others what you need from God. Amen. In other words, God, I need a financial breakthrough. But your financial breakthrough might be $20,000. Your neighbor's financial breakthrough might be $10. And God said, I'm going to bless you so that you give the $10 to your neighbor, and by the time you need your $20,000, it'll be there for you. When we learn how to do this, we learn how to give and give freely. God will use us as ambassadors for his kingdom to show the world what it means to walk with God. That's right, and how he will bless you. When we learn how to give, folks, God is going to introduce you to a new spiritual realm called 100-fold. I don't know if you don't want, maybe you don't want to go there, but I want to finally see what 100-fold looks like all the time. I can feel God pressing us to move forward in this direction in our revolution. We're living in some interesting times. If you've been paying attention to the news, you've heard that the U.S. president has made remarks leading political pundits to speculate that war is just a few days away. The Affordable Health Care Act is still under attack. As a matter of fact, it's under attack right now because the government pulled the funding for advertising because it's open enrollment time. And they won't want anybody to enroll because they want what they call Obamacare to fail. And so if nobody knows it's open enrollment, they won't enroll. And we are so busy jumping and shouting, we forgetting to spread the message that this is the time that if you don't have it, you need to sign up for it. Many of us have heard the story of the brave 19-year-old Destiny Tompkins, who was fired from Banana Republic because they said her braids were too curly. Television stations have decided to collude this weekend and not air the playing of the national anthem in an attempt to stifle the peaceful protest against injustice. We have to understand what's happening around us in order for God to move in us. Since the end of slavery, the African American dollar has been the target of capitalism in this country. And in 2016, it was determined that the 42 million African Americans in the United States have the spending power of $1.1 trillion. We spend our money as the greatest consumer on the planet. We spend $3.3 billion in tobacco products, $3 billion in alcohol products, $3 billion in leisure time, $3 billion in toys, games, and pets, and $18 billion in telephone services. I keep trying to tell y'all. You can march all you want to. Don't nobody care about that. You want to protest? Pull your money back. I thank God for the young girl for going on the news with her story. But we ain't seen any of our national leaders coming out against Banana Republic. But we can make a statement to Banana Republic if our 1.1 trillion spending power say, don't nobody go to that store and buy a blessed thing. You want to change the rules? Start making up your mind that I'm only going to spend my money where I see my people. You go to the car dealer to buy a car, ask the general manager, how many black people work up in here? Because if I don't see none, I'm going to find another dealership to go to. You can even take it a little further. If you're going to buy a BMW, call BMW USA and ask them, how many black people you got working for BMW? Because if it ain't more than 20% of your employees, I'm not buying your product. So we got to stop buying stuff because it makes us look good and buy stuff because it empowers our economy. All of this going on in our world, it's easy to lose our place and our focus. And when we lose our place and our focus, we have a tendency to pull back and wait when we are in the face of opportunity. When we lose our focus, the very first thing we pull our money from is God. We got to eat out on Friday, and I got to go to the movies. Even though it's going to be on Netflix the next week, but I got to go to the movies. I got to entertain myself. I'm not going to invest in my spiritual growth because I ain't going to Bible study. Because on Wednesday night, my favorite show come on and I got to see that. We got to learn. As we look around and see churches emptying. That's right. Yes, sir. See millennials not feeling a part of the overall structure. I took part in some webinars about ministering to millennials. And what I found out, what I learned, is that many people, and not just millennials, many people who are falling away from the faith, they're leaving because they're looking for the church to be a social organization rather than a spiritual organism. The purpose of the church is not to help you get your groove on. The purpose of the church is to help you know God. And God will hook you up with the right mate. See, we can participate in social events, but that is not our mission. When we lose our focus, we pull back. We wait when we're in the face of opportunity. And our tendency is to wait too long, and it causes us to miss opportunities to be blessed. This with the fact that, as I mentioned to you on last week, too many believers are selfish, stingy, cheap, self-absorbed, and downright ungrateful has had devastating effects on our stability and growth as a church, but more importantly, as a race of people. That's right. We won't join our resources together. That's right. We won't combine our efforts. Right. We can't get along well enough. Right. where two families that can't afford a house by themselves can't come together and buy one two-family house together. Because everybody want to be in charge. Everybody want to have the final say. And while we are missing out, there are people coming from other countries not buying a house, but buying a block of houses. And now we got an attitude because we can't afford their rent. The Lord is so awesome that in order to move us forward, God says, and I want you to see this in the big picture. God says, in order to move you forward, I can't use good times. Because you got something in you that likes to party. And every time something good happens, first thing you want to do is celebrate. You're not looking for the next opportunity. You're ready to party. I want everybody to come around. Let's eat, drink, and be merry. And God is saying, but this is just the tip of the iceberg. It's so much more to what I want to do. But we're dancing over the canned soda. And he wants to give you the soda factory. After we pop the top and drink it and burp, we ready to go to sleep now. And God is saying, you're missing the rest of the story. So I can't bless you through blessings. I gotta bless you through hard times. Because it's only in hard times that you talk to me. I gotta let you be stricken with illness before you pray. I gotta let you lose your job before you lay on your face. I gotta see that you're going through hell and high water and have your back up against the wall before you consult me about what you're gonna do. Because when everything's going good, you ignore me. I don't think everybody liked my sermon. Let's do something easy. God says, when things get difficult, now you listen. Have you noticed when things get difficult how spiritual folk get? I watched the struggle of the women on Sunday morning when the men come upstairs. Y'all know I got a camera. I just look downstairs. Sister so-and-so, can you pray me? But let hell break out in her life. She'll still be praying at 2:30. God says, why do I have to allow affliction to come to you before you listen to me? Woo. Tap somebody, tell them if you listen, you won't go through some of the stuff you go through. Let me help you understand, especially those of you from my generation. Maybe some of the young people never heard this, but Mama used to say a hard head. Somebody said, I don't understand what that means. That means when you're hard-headed, you got to get a whooping in order to understand the lesson I've been trying to teach you. And some of us have been getting a whooping from God because we just won't do what he said to do. Somebody in here can testify that when your back is up against the wall, you can hear God clearly. When your back is up against the wall, following him becomes easier, don't it? Because guess what? You don't have no other alternatives. And when your back is up against the wall, you know what you find out? You find out that all the folk you thought was your friend ain't really your friend. Because they'll hang out with you as long as you treat them. They'll hang out with you as long as you buy them. They'll hang out with you as long as you buy in the next round. But baby, the moment you decide that I don't have enough money to cover everybody, I'll see you later. Instead of getting mad, get glad. Because that means he just identified to you who the ride or die people are in your life. Because ride or die people will tell you, I ain't got but $2, you can have one. My brothers and sisters, God is calling for us. Watch this. In the midst of our struggle, to open our hands. Catch this. I know he go talking about giving again. He said, I want you to open your hands. I ain't impressed with your giving because you can never give more than me. That's what God is saying. Open your hands, not so you can give, but so you can receive. He said, you've been so busy holding on to that little Abraham Lincoln that you don't have your hands open to get to Ben Franklin. I'm trying to give you something. Some of y'all purposely come to church after the offering's over. Should be done by now. Newsflash, we got Giveify. You can give from the car. Giveify, yeah, I came to write my tithe this morning. It was out of checks. Thank God for the app. It even let me put my pledge in. My pledge on one line, my tithe on the other line. Sin, guess what? They didn't even get to offering and the church had my money already. We got to learn to stop trying to avoid the giving moment and start saying, God, use me with whatever I have because you want me to open my hands. Because you got stuff you want to put in there. Past my time. Trouble's been stirring in Abraham's family. Isaac and Rebekah's sons have been warring since the womb. In chapter 25, Abraham dies, and Isaac's son Esau and Jacob are born and are now older. And the battle between these two twin sons is so continuous. Is continuous, and it intensifies as they seek for each of their parents' attention. Esau was Isaac's son. Jacob was Rebekah's son. And in chapter 25, Esau comes home so hungry, he sells his birthright to his brother Jacob. By the time we reach the verses of our text this morning, a famine has invaded the land. So Isaac packs up his family, goes to see the king of the Philistines, a man by the name of Abimelech, who's in Gerar. God told him, don't go to Egypt. Stay right in Gerar. He promised to be with him and to bless him and his children and to keep the promises he made to Abraham. And through him, all the nations of the earth would be blessed. And in verse 6, it tells us, Isaac stayed. He dwelt in Gerar. That was not his homeland, but it was now his headquarters for blessing. After dealing with his generational curse and wrestling with some of his own personal issue, Isaac sowed in that land during the famine. And he received what the Bible says 100-fold in the same year. And the Lord blessed him. And he became wealthy. He kept going. He didn't stop and have a party and pop soda. He kept going and became very wealthy. Y'all do understand there's a difference between being rich and being wealthy. Let me help you understand that. Rich people play professional sports. Wealthy people pay them. Unfortunately, all our young people want to do is play the sport so that they can be rich. I don't want to play the sport. I want to own the team and the stadium. And all the hotels around the stadium, including the restaurant. That way, whether you show up or not, I'm still going to eat. So, somebody know what I'm talking about? Tap your neighbor, tell me you got to start thinking bigger. As his wealth and his stature grew, the Philistines started becoming envious. Church, at a crucial time in Isaac's life, watch this, circumstances causes him to change tactics and location. A casual look at this scripture will cause you to believe that this was easy for him. But imagine this, your family is in crisis because you love one son and your wife loves another son, and they're warring ever since they've been in the womb. So your house is in some kind of turmoil. Then your father, who is the father of faith, he has died. And he has remarried and had other kids. So you've got some half siblings you've got to deal with. And y'all know how we act when folk die. And Daddy said I could have his car, and Mama said I could have the toaster. And everybody fighting over stuff that's going to wind up on 1-800-GOT-JUNK anyway. There's trouble stirring up in the house. His boys are jockeying for position. Who can get which parent's attention? They're jockeying for prominence. Jacob, whose name means slickster, is slicker than Esau.
That's right.
Esau's a man of the field. He's an outdoorsman. Jacob's a mama's boy. He hangs around his mama. He's learning how to be conniving from her.
There you go.
While Esau outside playing basketball, Jacob was online looking at the bank accounts. I'll take some out of his trust and put it in mine. And he don't even realize that he's being suckered.
That's right.
And Isaac is over all of this, and their blessings are dwindling. Now, to make matters worse, there's a famine in the land. Produce won't grow.
That's right.
Animals can't graze.
That's right.
Business can't prosper.
That's right.
And times are getting harder.
That's right.
And Isaac goes from things going well to things going bad. I know there's nobody in here who's familiar with that. But I can help you understand because I'm familiar with that. How things can be going well one moment.
Come on now.
You go to bed with your little classic prayer, now I lay me down to sleep. Bring the Lord my soul to keep. If I die, 4 I wait. Not before, 4 I wait. Bring the Lord my soul to keep. You get up in the morning, put your feet on the floor, get your morning stretch, and open your eyes, and all hell has broken loose. God gives him some directions that don't match the times he's living in. Instead of ordering him to bunker down, hold on till things get better, God tells him, untie your hands, and with open hands, move forward. God, I'm in a famine. This ain't the time to plant no seeds. They're going to die because we're in a famine. And God says, while everybody else is bunkering down, take it all. Open your hand. Plant seed. And watch me grow it. While others are wringing their hands, God says, move. While everybody else is sitting on their hands, God says, move. While everybody else is pointing fingers and holding on to their little bit of resources, God is telling Isaac, there is no time like right now to advance your cause so that I can bless you. It is in this moment in Isaac's life that we get to see God move at his best, because God has a strange way of moving in secret places. And in this case, he's moving in the secret place called famine. See, you have to really be in touch with God to see God in bad situations. Most people turn on God in bad situations because they haven't learned to see God. God has a way of hiding in disaster. He has a way of hiding in famine. He has a way of hiding in layoffs and foreclosures. He has a way of hiding in bad situations, because while everybody else is feeling sorry for himself, God is saying, I'm all in it. I just don't want them to see me moving on your behalf. So don't curse the famine. Start thanking God for the famine, because that's where God is hiding. Tell your neighbor, take a deep breath. Come on, tell them, take a deep breath. Look at somebody else, tell them the trouble you're facing is there to hide you, not destroy you. Good God Almighty. Watch this quickly. Everybody's affected by the famine.
That's right.
Except Isaac and his family.
That's right.
Ooh, let me try to quiet. Everybody The whole nation's affected by the famine. Except Isaac and his family. When you walk with God, the fine print says there's an exclusionary rule that says everybody else gonna sink, but you gonna swim. Everybody else going bankrupt, but you can ready to go into the wealthy status. Not because you're so wonderful, it's just that you walk with God. And God said, because my name is on you, I can't allow you to go down. I can't allow you to struggle for so long. I gotta bless you because you're mine. I just need you to stop being so cheap and stingy. You want to get out of it, but you cannot. Watch this. You can't receive out of it. You can only give out of it. Let me help you. If you want to get out of your struggle is not going to come, it's not going to end by you standing in line receiving. Because as long as you're receiving, you're always going to be in need. Because you don't have enough discipline to do anything with it, because it comes so easy that you just spend it frivolously because you're always in the give me line. I said flip it around. Be the one giving. And you're going to find out I'm true to my word. When you give it, it's going to come back to you. Press down. Shake it together. Let me help you. Some of y'all ain't going to ever get no new clothes till you open up your closet and tell a homeless person, come on in. The table is spread. The feast of the Lord is going on. And after they take, gotta roll a truck up in front of your house with tailor-made stuff. Not with somebody else's name on it, with your name on it. Tell somebody now, that's a revolution. I realize how frightening it can be to find yourself in this kind of crisis. Everything around you has been impacted by the same circumstances.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
Don't you ever
Yes, sir, Pastor. Yes, sir.
roll up in this church
Bring it. Yes, sir. Yeah, yes, sir.
and disregard your value
That's right.
because your ride don't have a new car sticker. Did you ever come up in here and think you have no value to God or this ministry because you don't make the same amount as the person beside you? The famine is in everybody's life. It's just at a different dimension and a different level, but everybody in here needs God to move. You think you're going through because you need help with your rent, but the homeowner needs help with the rent, the roof, the finish, the boiler. You got to call the landlord. They got to call the contractor.
That's right.
Everybody got a family.
Everybody.
But the blessing is when you learn how to give, God says, I'm going to do something you ain't never seen happen. So untie your hands. Pull everything that our revolution means together at one time. And look at the devil in the face and tell him, I may be struggling a little bit, but baby, you come across one that's resilient. I may have some financial difficulties, but I serve a God that's already given me the victory. I may not know where my next dollar's coming from, but I'm just too optimistic to believe that they brought me this far to leave me now. You may think that you can get me to get mean and miserable where I start acting bitter, but there's too much love on the inside of me. I love my God, I love my family, I love my church family, and we may not always see eye to eye, but devil, you better not mess with none of my brothers and sisters, because if they can't tear you up, I'll tear you up. I wish I had a witness in here. Tell somebody I'm time for me to be undaunted. I ain't scared. God, what you want me to do? Let's get in this fight together. Let's put our hands to the plow together. Let's do this thing together, because God's got great blessings coming our way. And when all is said and done, we all gonna stand on the rock and declare triumph in this place. I'm so glad that our text shows us the answer. I'm passing the time.
Thank you, Lord. Thank God.
Just give me 5 minutes to give you these 3 points.
Okay, go ahead. Take your time, Pastor.
God, how do I get out of this struggle?
Come on now. Help me, the Holy Spirit. Thank you, Jesus.
How do I get out of this family?
Come on now.
He said, you got to follow the lesson of Isaac.
Yeah.
Life lesson number 1, position and plant yourself in the designated place.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, God.
We're trying to make God move where God has cursed.
Lord have mercy.
God says, move,
Amen.
shift. So he goes, of all places, to the land of the Philistines. And verse 2 tells us that this was the result of repositioning and planting. Now watch this. Isaac has a relationship with God. That's the first position you need to set straight. You have a relationship with God. And because he was in the right position with God, verse 2 tells us that the Lord appeared unto him. God didn't send a messenger. God showed up himself. It didn't come through some sermon on the radio. God shows up himself. We don't know how God shows up, but we know God shows up and tells him not to follow the path of his father Abraham. When the first famine came, Abraham went to Egypt. But God says, don't do that. That's what's familiar. If you want a blessing, you got to stop doing what's familiar and start doing stuff you ain't used to doing. Instead of looking at the sports scores on the internet, instead of looking at the latest gossip, instead of hanging out on Twitter or Facebook, God says go to an investment page and take that money you spend on stupid stuff and start investing it in the places you first shop at. If you're a Macy's shopper, invest in Macy's. If you go to Blooming's, invest in Bloomingdale's. So that next time you walk in the store, you're not a customer, you're an owner. And you can walk around with a different attitude because you stopped being a renter and became an owner. I wish I had a witness here. Tell somebody reposition. You got to reposition yourself and do what's unfamiliar. Do what God tells you to do. Second lesson, forget about people. Focus on the promise. Forget about people. Focus on the promise. He tells them to sojourn in Gerar. And even though it's going to be different, and even though you're going to feel uncomfortable, dwell right there in a place where you feel like you're being watched. But it's okay, because I got your back. Flourish right here where eventually folk are going to talk about you and hate you. But I'm going to turn it around for you, because the folk that hate you in the early verses are going to come and ask you for your help in the later verses. Look at somebody and tell them, neighbor, your haters are talking about you. Give it some time. Eventually they're going to copy your moves. Good God Almighty. If they're going to talk about you, you might as well give them something to talk about. If they're going to talk about you, you might as well show them how it's done. Baby, I'm so connected to God, I don't care what you say. He told me to pitch my tent right here, and I ain't moving whether you like it or not. I'm not going nowhere, because he's about to bless me. God says, when you do this, I'm going to be with you. I'm going to bless you and your seed. I'm going to give you all these countries. Y'all have not wrapped that around your head. All these countries. Do I have at least 5 progressive folk here? I'm going to put it in the atmosphere. I'm going to have a house in England and France. I'm going to get one over in Africa. I'm going to go over to the islands. Yeah, I'm going to have a house in every country. Everywhere I put my feet, God going to give me someplace. And I'm not staying in no hotel. I'm going to have my own keys to where I live, because God said if I just open my hand. Woo. So somebody say, I ain't got nothing here yet. But I believe I'm on my way to the blessings of God. He says, forget about these people. The battle's going to be God's. You're going to receive blessings. Why? Because your Father obeyed me. Wait a minute. God, you're not looking at my resume? Put that down. Before you was born.
Come on now, Pastor.
As a matter of fact, you weren't even thought possible. And your daddy said, I trust you, God. And I promised him that his offspring would be like the stars in the sky. So what's about to first thing that happened to him when he gets in Quran, he gets scared. His wife is fine. He's afraid that if he tells them that this is his wife, somebody who wants her will kill him. So he lies and says it's his sister. And if you go back in the record, in Egypt, that's what Abraham did with Sarah. You got to beware of the generational curses that cause you to be in need in the first place. There's a good book that all of you should pick up and read called Good Dad, Poor Dad. Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Pick up that book, read that. And it's about teaching our kids about money. Because the poor dad don't know about money. So he teaches his kid to work, buy, pay bills. But the rich dad teaches his kid how to let your money make money so you don't have to work so hard. So he says, tell the people, watch the generational curses. Your family spent on credit cards so they couldn't get out of debt. Learn. Don't you do that. You don't have to have the top brand to be somebody. Live according to your means, and then let your means earn money for you so that you can live better than you ever thought. Okay. Let me fast forward. Okay, so take advantage of your now moments.
That's right.
Even though you're on unfamiliar territory. Even though you're not in Canaan, sow where you are. Some of you on jobs you can't stand, sow. Some of you are uncertain about church, sow. Some of you are considering church hopping because somebody hurt your feelings, sow. In the same year.
Yes, sir.
All right. What's today's date? October 8th.
2017.
How many months we got left?
Two.
So technically we have about 9 weeks left. No, we have about 12 weeks left in the year. God says, if you all stop being stingy, sow with your resources, love with your heart and not your eyes, help where you see help is needed, and stop waiting for a formal invitation. Help. God says, in the next 12 weeks, 100-fold of what you give out. Why? Because the text says, in the same year. We only have about 12 weeks before 2018 roll around. And I just want to be able to hear the praise report that I paid off my house. I paid off my car. I got out of debt. I went back to school. I opened my business. I did something I thought I couldn't do, but I sold. And in the same year, 100-fold. Tell somebody, say, my 100-fold gonna be healing in my body. My 100-fold gonna be my kids get saved. My 100-fold gonna be my house turn around. My 100-fold gonna be life gonna get better. I believe that if I just do what God tells me. Look at somebody, tell them, neighbor, the time is now. You don't have time to wait. The year is winding up. It's time to get it together and get right with God right now. I'll do all of these maybe some other time. So I get ready to finish. There was a man and a woman who were farmers. They had 2 kids. The kids grew up, went to college, moved to the West Coast. His son got married, had 2 children. His daughter got married, had 2 children. They were all close in age. It's one summer. They all come to the grandparents' farm. This one day, they saw their grandfather outside. It looked like all he was doing was messing with the dirt. And they go into the barn, and their grandmother is there preparing some seeds. And they asked their grandmother, what are you doing? She said, oh, I'm just preparing seeds for harvest. They asked if she helped. They helped, and all the grandkids pitched in and helped. While they were eating lunch, they looked out the window and saw their grandfather taking the seeds they prepared for harvest. He was putting them in the dirt and putting dirt on top of them. They ran outside. Grandpa, please, don't bury grandma's seeds for the harvest. Grandfather said, relax. In just a little bit of time, God will show you something. Before the summer was over, they would peek out. They'd see signs of stuff. But they were looking for seeds. But they weren't seeing seeds. They were seeing vegetation. They went back to the West Coast, and when they came back for a holiday meal, Grandma had all these vegetables on the table. Grandfather said to them, remember the seeds you saw that you helped your grandmother plant? Grandmother prepared. They said, yeah. He said, and remember you told me don't bury them in the dirt. They said, yeah. They said, baby, this is what I want you all to understand. You got to know the difference between burying and planting. So see, you bury what's dead, but you plant what's alive. So the reason you're at the harvest is because at some point we planted some seeds. And God wants you to know that every time you give, you are planting seeds.
Come on now, tell it, Pastor. That's right.
See, when you spend, you're not planting seeds
Right.
for you.
That's right.
You're helping somebody else get rich. But when you invest in yourself by going to school, when you invest in yourself by taking care of yourself, when you invest in yourself by supporting your church, whatever your church don't have, we look on TV, all these churches, they got this wing and that wing, and they got this center and that center. You can have that.
All right, that's right. That's right.
But understand, ain't nobody going to come in here and give it to us.
All right, amen. Amen.
We got to pull our resources together and build it ourselves. When you invest, God says 100-fold. It's